everyone, hello. Are we ready for tonight's blockbuster event?
Yes.
All right, so tonight's workshop is healing your broken brain. Who wants to increase their mental clarity tonight?
Yeah.
Increase your energy?
Yes.
Add years to your life and life to your years.
Okay.
All of that will be provided for you tonight. Dr. Yachter has a great class and workshop planned for you tonight, okay? Let me just give you a little gist of what Dr. Yachter's been doing so far, okay? So Dr. Yachter's been a chiropractor in the Fort Lauderdale area for 23 years now. He's been practicing in this plantation area, okay? He's also been awarded the Chiropractor of the Year in 1998, 99, and 2001, all right? He is certified in advanced non-surgical scoliosis. He's a consultant for the Miami Marlins Dolphins. And he has 2 best-selling books, Born a Champion and True Wellness in the Workplace. The energy level is kind of low tonight, yo. Can we get a little bit more out of it? Oh, I'm sorry. I need to speak a little bit louder. I'm so sorry. Tell me if I'm talking too low. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite Dr. Yachter up to the stage. And I want you all to stand up, and I want you to get in round position. All right, so stand up for me. All right, here we are. There we are.
All right, good job. All right, let's do the ritual, guys. Come on, you know how it works. Get a little energy going. All right, good job. Good job. All right, make yourself comfortable. Woo! Yeah, I think we needed that. Dr. Naja was right. So I'm glad you guys are awake. And hey Deborah, anybody walks in tonight, the penalty is they have to be escorted to the front seats. I got plenty of room here in the front seats, and I'll probably be standing on them until people walk in. So raise your hand if it's your first time to a workshop here at our office. All right, good job, good. And how many of you guys have been here to workshops before in our office? Good, keep your hands up if you've been to 5 or more workshops, 10 or more workshops, 20 or more workshops, 30 or more workshops, 50 or more workshops, over 100. Okay, yeah, so we kind of have a workshop culture here, and we do one every month. And I'm sure by the end of tonight, you'll kind of get an understanding as far as why people keep coming back. Every time you come here, you're going to learn something. And we also have a mantra here. When you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start what? Dying, yeah. So you guys are going to learn a lot tonight. So tonight we have Healing Your Broken Brain. Next month we have Heart Smart Nutrition. September is National Heart Health Awareness Month. So I'll be doing talks in the community on Heart Smart Nutrition and things that you could do to balance your blood pressure, cholesterol, and also find out, if you're on some of these medications, what the long-term side effects are that you may not be aware of. And so we're always here to give you solutions to help you with that. So just plug that in your calendar, because we always run out of seats for this one. And then in October we have cancer prevention as well. So tonight we're going to be talking about brain health. So a lot of concern, if you're not really aware of what statistics are showing today, Alzheimer's is on the move at an alarming rate. Parkinson's, dementia, and I watched my mother take care of her parents, and I watched people a little bit older than me taking care of their parents, and it seems to be pretty much the norm. You're going to be taking care of people who have brain disease, and it just seems like it's happening to everybody, and it's just the norm. And the reality is that the research I'm going to share with you tonight shows that it's not the norm, and it's completely preventable through something called epigenetics. Epigenetics means that you can influence your genes. You can do things to turn on the genes that give you Alzheimer's, or you can do things to turn them off. And everything I'm going to share with you is straight out of medical journals, so it's really going to be encouraging. Top cause for disabilities later in life, Alzheimer's disease. The cost of caring for Alzheimer's patients in the United States this year is going to be estimated to be over 226. Is that B with a billion? Yeah, how about that? 1 out of 9 Americans over the age of 65 are diagnosed. 1 out of 2 over the age of 85. Pretty bad odds. sixth leading cause of death. 1 out of 3 seniors die with Alzheimer's or another kind of dementia. 2 out of 3 people with Alzheimer's are women, and the life expectancy after an Alzheimer's diagnosis is what? 4 to 8 years. Okay, so you look at this, and it's pretty much just as scary as cancer, because 1 out of 3 people are getting cancer, 1 out of 2 people from heart disease, and so you have to look at it with the same type of urgency, concern, focus, and that's what we're going to do tonight. So, top 5 for lifetime brain health. So tonight we're going to boil this down to just a couple of things. You know, we're going to show you problems, we're going to show you solutions. We're going to show you what not to do and what to do instead. So we're going to give you a strategy here for good lifetime brain health. Raise your hand if you're ready to build a healthy brain. Awesome. Turn to your neighbor. Turn to your neighbor on your right. I want you to, flick him on the shoulder there. Tap him on the shoulder.
Thanks.
Say, are you awake? How's that brain working? All right. So we need 5 things for good brain health. Here we go. Oxygenation, stress management, properly functioning nerve system, nutrition, and can I? You asked the magic question. Unfortunately, you got to wait till slide number 40 to find out. Woo-wee, is that going to be a long presentation? No. I figure if I go 1 slide per minute, if you can keep up with that, we'll all get out of here in time for the Olympics. No, they're not over already? Where's America's Got Talent? Just kidding. All right, so oxygenation. Oxygenation. The most important type of exercise for the brain is what? Aerobic exercise. Yeah, so just amazing brain benefits when you're getting aerobic exercise. And, it doesn't necessarily mean jumping up and down and doing jumping jacks. It could be swimming, it could be brisk walking, it could be riding a bike. Pick your poison, so to speak, but as long as you do it more than once annually, you're probably doing something good for yourself. Research shows that older adults that engage in consistent, that's the key word right there, consistent exercise program, reduce their risk of developing age-related dementia. And so there were medical studies done, they published this, they did a 4-year study, and they looked at brain scans, at the beginning of the study, and then 4 years later they looked at it again with these people. They had 2 separate groups. They had one group that worked out 3 times a week and did aerobic exercise, and then they had another group, a control group, that did not do aerobic exercise. They just did stretching and stuff like that. And I'm going to share with you the results. Pretty remarkable. Did you know that your brain actually shrinks? The hippocampus, the centers for learning and memory, shrinks about 1 to 2% per year. Did you know that? Okay, so that means if you're not exercising and you're really doing nothing to prevent your brain from shrinking, it is. And don't be surprised if you can't remember, your names of your children or grandchildren, or where you put your keys or phone numbers, because that's typically what happens when you don't do things that we should be doing, like exercise. If you lived outside the United States, you would probably have to. If you lived in France or Belgium, you'd be riding a bike or walking. But in the United States, everybody hops in a car and drives. We like our luxuries. We're at a shortage for the exercise. And as a result of that, the studies clearly show that when you're exercising, you're actually regrowing new brain cells. And they found that the people who exercised in this study, their hippocampus actually grew. Not only did it stop the brain from atrophying, but it showed that their brain actually grew. So this was the study. I clipped the excerpt. 20 minutes, that's it, of moderate intensity aerobic exercise. So what that would be the equivalent to is just going out and doing a brisk walk for 20 minutes. And they did that 3 days a week for a year. Participants also experienced corresponding increase in memory function, increase in serum levels of BDNF, that's brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that's growing new brain cells. That's what BDNF does. However, the control group assigned to stretching and toning experienced a decrease in the hippocampal size. How about that? There's no known cure for Alzheimer's disease, but yet we're looking at a lifestyle that can actually offset the possibility of that. Completely in your control of reversing brain damage that leads to things like Alzheimer's disease. The findings are significant because generally as we age, we're losing 1 to 2% of hippocampal neurons in terms of size. The exercise actually led to the growth of the hippocampus. How many of you guys knew that? That's insane. I mean, yeah, we want to exercise to look good and feel good, but I mean, if you want to invest in doing something that's going to preserve your quality of life, so like when you in your latter years, you still know who your family members are. You're still aware of the conversation that you're having. Do you know what that is when that's not happening? I'm taking care of a person. I started taking care of her last week. She did not know who her granddaughter was. She did not know who her spouse was. She went in the hospital and they loaded her up on medications, put her on antidepressants, and they can't find out. They don't know what happens. Well, I did some testing on her and I found some interference in the brainstem and I've started to adjust her. And within the last week, she knows who her family members are. She knows what their names are. She's asking them, like, why are you asking me if I need help? Like with getting dressed. What, am I crazy? Like, she doesn't even know that she was out of it for like a 2-week period of time. And she was going downhill very quickly. They were really concerned. Can you imagine if that was you? Like, you didn't know who your family members were, or like, why am I in? You're sitting in your home and you're like, where am I? Can you imagine? It's a scary thought. But all you got to do is start doing some of these things, like exercising on a regular basis and putting that in your schedule and making sure you're making that investment of your time so that that never happens to you. All right, the second thing is stress. What does stress do? When you're under stress, it drives up this hormone called cortisol. When cortisol goes up, a lot of bad things happen. First of all, it destroys brain cells. It destroys particularly the hippocampus. What will cause cortisol to go up? Stress, toxins, sugar, bad fats, prescription medications, just an acid diet in general. But when cortisol goes up, it causes a whole chain of hormonal effects. For example, it causes insulin levels to go up. And when insulin goes up, a lot of different things happen. Most of you guys already know that you start storing fat instead of burning it, right? But what I'm going to share with you here is other research that shows that when insulin levels go up because of elevated blood glucose or A1C for a long period of time, they've correlated that with brain shrinkage. A high carbohydrate diet is a precursor and predictor for Alzheimer's disease. And so this is all new breakthrough research that's coming through. Cortisol in chronically high amounts damages their hippocampus, so when you're under stress, you're causing brain damage. It depletes minerals and vitamins, throws your hormones and your neurotransmitters out of whack, and it stops you from sleeping. It's a vicious cycle that all comes back to pointing to one thing: brain damage. Sleep. Lack of sleep equals what? Brain damage, yeah. So how much sleep do we actually need? Most experts agree between 7 and 8 hours a night. Some people could get away with less. I'm not like some people. I do good with 7, 8 hours a night. But there's a key to what they're discovering today in the electronics world. When you've got this visual stimulation, LEDs, screens, that messes you up big time. It messes up your brain. It scrambles it. And one of the worst things that you could do before you go to sleep to stop you from getting a good, restful, deep sleep is watch TV or read an iPad or have some sort of electronic stimulation going into your eyes. So the best thing that you could do if you want to fall asleep to make your eyes heavy is read a good old-fashioned paper book and just go to sleep naturally. And that they found that has the best effect on the brain and the body. And also important is making sure that you have a cold and dark environment. Sleep specialists know this. You cannot have light coming into your cave. It's got to be cave-like darkness. Shut the blinds. There should not be any light coming in from the street or anywhere. And turn that air down. They show that hibernation occurs best at what? 72 degrees. Yeah, 72 degrees. Get lots of blankets if you need. If you feel like it's too cold, get lots of blankets. But you have to have that environment nice and cool and dark, and you'll get your best night's sleep and let your brain heal and let your body heal. Does that make sense? Okay, brain health also has a lot to do with proper neurotransmitter communication. You know, when people become depressed and they put them on antidepressants, that's what they show as diagnosed as a brain imbalance or neurochemical imbalance. And so these are typically the neurotransmitters that you guys have heard of. Serotonin is what gives you the happy, good feeling. When people go on antidepressants, that's what they're modulating. Dopamine helps to give you attention and focus. When they diagnose kids with attention deficit disorder, they usually say there's an imbalance with that, causing the lack of attention and focus. Acetylcholine is for your memory. And so that's obviously a problem, or an imbalance with that causes Alzheimer's disease. GABA is for relaxation, and an imbalance with that would cause anxiety and insomnia. And of course, they have drugs for all this stuff, but the problem is that when you take those medications, not only are they toxic, but they may address one issue, but they cause multiple others at the same time. And so what we want to do is correct the cause of the problem. If you correct the cause of the problem, then you don't need the medications. Right or right?
Right.
Okay. So what controls the neurotransmitters is your nervous system. When I say the word neurotransmitter, what does neuro mean? Nerves. Nerves, yeah. So the genesis of that and the maintenance of that comes through your nervous system. Now, most of you guys in the room right now are working on correcting your nervous system through aligning your spine and correcting your spine and removing as much interference to the one system, which is your skeletal system, that actually protects your nervous system. When you have the spine out of alignment, it's no longer protecting the system that it was designed and created to do. When the individual vertebrae shift out of alignment, it actually puts pressure on the spinal cord and the nerves. It could do it at the brainstem, which directly throws off neurotransmitters, or it could do it at multiple different areas in your spine, which could affect directly the nerve flow that goes to the organs. You guys have all seen this chart before. If you're a guest here, you know that nerves branch off between the bones and feed off to all the organs. This is in every doctor's office. Your nervous system controls every cell, organ, and tissue in your body. But for purposes of our workshop tonight, what I want to point out is the fact that when you have a brain chemical imbalance, it can in fact be due to one particular area, and that's on your brainstem. Did you know that? Well, I'm going to show you. You guys, many of you have seen the movie Concussion, and I'm going to point something out to you right now. When kids play sports or adults, or there's traumas, whether you have a car accident or football injuries, like you're on people on the field, that's like having multiple car accidents within a 1-2 hour period of time. You're damaging the brainstem because the weight of the head is like a bowling ball, and you got it on this stick. And so, you know, everything gets traumatized, and the thing that takes the most trauma is the brainstem right here. So you can see the brainstem extends from the base of the brain all the way down through C1 and C2. And so you have these two bones. There's no disc above or below C1, so it's very freely movable. And if you damage the ligaments, it's very unstable. And the bones actually wrap around the brainstem right there, and that's like the spigot through which all the cerebrospinal fluid flows through. And there has to be free and clear communication with the fluid, as well as the intelligence and the messages that go from the brain into the body and the body back to the brain. Now, what happens if you misalign this bone right here? What do you think it does to the flow? It's like a kink in a garden hose. Yeah. And so all the intelligence or the messages below get distorted. The cells and tissues and the organs become affected. And what gets affected above is the congestion of the cerebrospinal fluid, which creates a lot of tension and pressure. And that's why a lot of these athletes who've had concussion injuries, they want to kill themselves, because they have these debilitating headaches that nobody can help them with, number one. And number two, it creates a neurotransmitter imbalance where they become depressed. And what's one of the side effects of antidepressants? Suicide and homicide. It's on the side of the boxes. So it's become a big concern. That's why they made the movie. So I was teaching continuing education yesterday to about 200 chiropractors up in West Palm Beach. And the gentleman who practices in Miami, who went before me, was teaching upper cervical technique. And this is like a review of how to assess and address and adjust and correct just this one area right here. And he's pretty much a specialist in his practice, and he showed us this video that I'm going to share with you right now, and he sent me a copy of it because I thought it was appropriate for our discussion tonight. So I want to share that with you right now. How many of you guys remember Jim McMahon, who played NFL football? Okay?
Jim McMahon is 56 years old. He now spends most of his time in his Scottsdale, Arizona home, where the dry desert air best suits his long list of post-football aches and pains.
This is my daily routine. What am I doing? What am I looking for?
But what the climate can't combat are the symptoms associated with brain trauma McMahon suffered as a player.
Bad headaches, pressure on my skull. I couldn't see very well. I couldn't talk very well. All I wanted to do was lay down, because my head was just constantly pounding. The pain had gotten so bad where if I had had a gun, I wouldn't have been here. When these two doctors from New York called me and said, "Hey, we think we can help you. We think we know what's going on." I said, "Let's do it."
Jim was diagnosed with early onset dementia. He had been complaining about a brain fog, as he described it, as well as he described it, a headache where he felt like ice picking on both sides of his brain.
While most concussion studies are focused on the brain, McMahon's team traces the effects of CTE directly to the upper spine, having found that neck misalignment can block the flow of spinal fluid and pool toxic proteins directly onto the brain.
Spinal fluid is white. That's the spinal cord. This is the spinal column. What you're seeing is a narrowing of the opening where the spinal fluid is supposed to come through.
Most of the time when you're having head problems, that's all they look at is the head. These guys were smart enough to at least look below the head at the neck and see if there was a problem somewhere, and they found my problem. They're not going to be able to reverse the damage. Like I said, that stuff was sitting in there for 20 years. So how much it ate away at my brain, I don't know.
Using detailed images captured by the MRI scans, McMahon regularly receives targeted adjustments, clearing the blockage and restoring the flow of spinal fluid.
This instrument is going to generate a gentle mechanical tapping that is just lightly going to put those bones right back into normal position. Okay, I'm going to sit back up.
First time they did this procedure, within 2 minutes, it was like the toilet flush. I could feel this stuff actually leaving my brain. My eyes cleared up, my speech cleared up.
The left is before, the right is after. So you see how much there is there? See how there's less in here? Instead of all this white stuff in there, you see more brain tissue than fluid. So it's already started to brain. Over the next several days, it will improve more.
What damage it's done, it's done. I can't reverse that. But what these guys do for me, they keep me from having these bad pains, having these suicidal thoughts, having me function fairly normally while I can.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? And he said it himself. He's like, nobody was looking for the cause. Everybody was looking up here. These guys finally looked below the brain, at the brain stem. And, all I could think about is, like, what would his life be like if he wasn't getting adjusted? Like he said, he'd probably be dead. And how many people out there are just in the same position? These kids that play sports, all these kids that have slips, falls, trips, and then you look at them and, before they're 8, 10 years old, they're on antidepressants, then they're on Ritalin, and they get a little older and they can't deal with life, and they get they get on the internet and they're watching YouTube and they're watching all these things. They get their hands on some firearms, and then they're in a school, and then you turn on the news and you got your next event right there. This is what this is, guys. This is our world today. People are badly subluxated, their neurology is interfered with, their neurotransmitters are off, and that's what happens when your spine is out of alignment. You just don't feel it, you don't know it, nobody's looking for it, but all it takes is the proper evaluation, the clinical assessments, and what happens is your whole life changes, your whole life transforms. I felt it myself. Sometimes I'll wake up and I'm off there, I've woken up in the morning and I look down and it like the floor is spinning. You know, I feel like I'm drunk, and I don't drink. And you know, and I get adjusted, and it's clear, it's balanced. We went up to a seminar a couple of weeks ago, and I just felt like that. You know, I got off the plane, I felt like my head was in a vice. You know, I didn't feel good at all. And he laid me on my side. The guy gave me an adjustment right there in the same area. I'm telling you, man, within a couple of hours, I felt like I was on Prozac. I was like, you know, don't worry, be happy, man. You know, and what it is it's an endorphin release, and all your neurotransmitters get balanced. And what is that worth, to be able to walk this life in peace? You know, physically speaking, you can't get that from a pill, potion, or a lotion in a true form. Your body is the greatest pharmacy walking this planet. It can make and do what it needs to do. It was designed and created to do that. But if there's distortion, disruption in the normal machinery of the way your brain and body works, ain't nothing gonna fix it until you find and remove that interference. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Your body is so smart. It doesn't need any help, it just needs no interference. They saved his life by finding the interference. And so this can happen at any level of the spine, but in particular, because of the brainstem, we have this chart of effects. So your spine is almost like a circuit breaker. We know at the brainstem, it's been long documented, that can cause headaches, nervousness, trouble sleeping, high blood pressure, migraines, tiredness, dizziness, anxiety, because it regulates neurotransmitters, it regulates your blood pressure, it regulates balance, it regulates your immune system, a lot of things. And so when there's neurological interference there, it can cause that. But you can go down the line to every section of the spine where the nerves branch off, you could trace that to a different organ, and you can see what type of symptoms eventually develop. And so people walk the planet with these in our communities with menstrual problems, inability to get pregnant, impotence, painful irregular periods, and what do? They take drugs. But meanwhile, it could be because the proper neurological communication has been disrupted because there's pressure on a nerve here. You know, same thing with somebody who's diabetic. I can't tell you how many patients I've had who were diabetic, who were able to reduce or get off their insulin. Not even through proper eating habits, just because the one adjustment that we did, it opened up the nerve channel going to the pancreas. You know, thyroid conditions, breathing problems. I don't have a cure. Like, I don't use the adjustment instead of a medication to treat the effect or the disease. I do something very simple. I remove the interference from what's stopping that individual from being all that God created them to be, and not 1% less. Does that make sense? How many of you guys, raise your hand if you want to be at 100% of your God-given potential? Yeah. Well, how else do you know that unless you're getting your spine checked on some regular basis? You can't tell if these nerve channels are open or they're closing down on the nerves by how you feel, because 94% of these nerves are not pain sensitive. Most of the neurology in your body is not pain sensitive, and you could have the weight of a feather on one of those nerves shutting down 50% of the nerve supply to any given organ in your body. You don't feel it. And that organ could be shutting down. It's like a metastatic cancer, you know, spreading through your body. You don't feel it, you don't know it. And yet it's the neurology, the supreme thing that controls everything in your body. How important is it to invest in having that checked on a regular basis? You know, you go for a mammogram every year, you go for a prostate exam. These tests only find disease after it's too late. What about checking the system that determines whether or not those cells will be functioning properly or will be cancerous? How about that? Take one step back upstream and say, hey, maybe I should look at the generator of those cells to make sure they don't become cancerous, instead of finding a test that determines it after it's too late. Hello? Wow. Jeez, man, that's pretty good. It just, you know, it makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you guys? Yeah? So if you're a guest in here and you don't have a chiropractor, you should be asking yourself right now, how do I get my spine checked? You know? Basically, we use two things. This is how you assess nerve system function. There's a lot of different ways. But technologically, these are the most advanced ways, with digital x-rays and thermography, NASA space technology. You know, you run it up the spine and it shows us where there's nerve interference, and then if the x-ray confirms what we find on a scan, it's a done deal. It'll show us. You know, if you're having health problems, if you've got symptoms, if you've got illness, this and that, and you want to see if it's a causative factor or the cause of it, then the test will show one way or the other. And even if you feel great, Like I have no problems at all. I feel no pain. God bless you. That's great. Go look up what health is in Dorland's dictionary. Is it gonna have a picture of a happy person with a smiley face on them? No. It's gonna say a condition of wholeness where your body's functioning at 100%, not merely the absence of symptoms or disease. In other words, health doesn't mean just feeling good, does it? How many of you guys know people who feel great and they get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer? Not one pain in their life. So that's what these tests do. They show you which direction you're really moving with your health, and it's very, very valuable. So usually the testing is several $100s when we do this in our office. But if you're a guest here tonight, we're going to give you an opportunity to do that tonight for only $40. And so the offer's only good for tonight. But I can tell you it's upwards of like $300 worth of service. But if you're a guest and that's something that you want to do, see us before the end of the night. $40 basically covers our cost to run those tests for you. It includes the exam, the x-rays, the report of findings, everything that you need to see what the status is of your nervous system. So at the end of the program, just see one of my associates and they'll get that scheduled for you. All right, so Deborah and my dynamic staff are going to come up right now. And what we want to do is recognize a couple of our great patients. All right, so there's a couple of things that are going on here. And so the first award we're going to give is for perfect adjustment attendance. Perfect adjustment attendance is something that we really appreciate because we love to see people on track with their schedule. We know it always translates to great results, and we just love seeing that. So we want to thank you for that. There's a couple people here. If we call your name and you're here, please stand up so we can recognize you. We're going to come around and crown you with the medal. Okay. So Shannon Schnurr, we're going to have you stand up. Adriano, stand up. Heather Castaneda and Sharon Rennick. Everybody give them a big round of applause. Cool.
Thanks very much.
Nice work. Nice work, guys. All right, we have an award for 6 or more workshops. And this is an award for our Elevation Health University Core 4 degree. And that goes to Michelle DeBroca. Yay! Everybody give Michelle a big hand. At least 100 workshops. So, not that good in math, but you probably have a few more of those coming to you. All right. So, no, thank you. All right, so and then we have our Lifesaver Awards. I want to invite the Capelli family up here, and Adriano, if you guys can come up. This is a little bit different. So, there's a couple of things that I want to do, and so y'all come up, yeah. This is family fun. All right, so this is Adriana, right? And this is the Capelli family. And so Mike and Jill, they've been patients since, 04, I think, so 12 going on 13 years. Week in and week out, been adjusting the kids since they were born. Him in utero. And so Adriana works with Jill, and I guess Jill saw that he needed to have his spine checked. Man came in, and he's a very responsible young man. You wouldn't know it by looking at him, but he has wisdom beyond his age. He's a good man, but basically I just wanted him to share how his life has changed in a short period of time. I mean, literally in just 60 seconds, like what was it like before, and then what are the difference that you saw since you've been getting adjusted?
All right. So I actually started seeing a chiropractor when I was living in Michigan. I broke my collarbone and started going once a week. And I definitely got the immediate short-term benefits of seeing a chiropractor, but they weren't looking after my long-term and preventative health. After I moved down to Florida, I stopped going to a chiropractor for a couple of years, but I did talk to Jill quite a bit about going to one and seeing one. And finally, unfortunately, it was due to pain that I came out here. But since then, I've been sleeping a lot better, waking up in almost no pain, generally higher level of energy, more motivated, more productive at work. and yeah, it's helped elevate my attitude towards life as a whole. So thank you, Jill, and thank you, Dr. Gibb.
That's awesome. Everybody give him a big hand. So, hey, you guys don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. We got to help you out here. So, no, I asked him to share with that just because that's a huge encouragement. I mean, some of you guys are here, and you need to hear that. I need to hear that too. It's just that's a huge win, and we love to celebrate that. This is a token of our appreciation for you guys for being such an awesome part of our chiropractic family for so many years, and Lord willing, for many more years to come. And there's a couple books in there and some supplements for you and the kids, and just a small token of our appreciation of how much we love and appreciate you. So, thank you guys.
We would not be coming here for 13 years if we weren't getting anything out of it. So.
Voice too.
Absolutely.
Visit after
Thanks again. Okay, so just wanted to take a mental break there while we're talking about brain health. So I want to have you guys come up out of your seats and turn and face the person to your right. And if there's a space, a seat between you, just shuffle forward. Put your hands on the shoulders of the nice person in front of you and just squeeze. We're going to do a little massage there. A little massage, squeeze, get all that stress out. Remember, stress causes brain damage. And we're reversing that. We're in the process of reversing that right now, so thank your neighbor for reversing the brain damage. All right, go ahead and do a karate chop. Karate chiropractic. There you go. That's good, that's good. All right, turn around and bless the neighbor on your other side. Get that stress out. Get those cortisol levels down. Reverse the brain damage. All right, and a little karate chop. Very nice, very nice. Get that stress out. Awesome. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. All right. We got shirts here. Barry, you want to help me through these? No? Heads up. Oh, hey. Okay. So the show goes on. So let's talk about nutrition. And this is the study that I was talking about that came out of the New England Medical Journal, where they were correlating elevated blood glucose and dementia. So what would cause elevated blood glucose? What kind of foods? Carbohydrates, sugars, starches. So we're going to get into the thick of that, but let's just get a dose of reality here. Elevated blood sugar levels between 105, 110. The New England Journal of Medicine a couple of years ago, it showed that even mild elevation of blood sugar is associated with an elevated risk for dementia. So I have diabetic patients that come in all the time. They're on medication to lower their blood sugar. Their blood sugar is in that range, usually in that range, 105, 110. As long as it's under 120, the doctors are happy. When their blood sugar starts going down to 80, 70, that's when I tell them, hey, you got to call your doctor, tell them to reduce or get you off those meds, otherwise you're going to keel over. But what they're showing here is what we've taken for granted as safe, 105 to 110, they're showing is basically correlated with dementia and increased Alzheimer's risk. So the study measured the participants' fasting blood glucose for 4 years. And they checked the size of the hippocampus, the brain, by MRI at the beginning of the study, and then 4 years later. They found that the individuals with the highest blood sugar levels had significant degree of what? Hippocampal what? Atrophy. Yep. The brain shrunk when they had blood sugar levels within the range of, look at this, the used in the study was what? 110. Yep. That's a value that we've considered normal. So if your blood sugar runs in that range, if you're diabetic, listen carefully. Whether you're diabetic or not, you may want to find out where your blood sugar is. And if you're on medication and your blood sugar is running between 105, 110, 115, basically your brain is shrinking. And so if that was me, I would be wanting to do something about that. Right or right? Right. Yeah, so I'm going to give you the strategies tonight to address that. Glucose, and again, you know, where did this come from? The New England Journal of what? And so endocrinologists who may have you or your family members on medication should be reading these journals. These are their peer-reviewed journals. And you just don't know, you never know if that's the case or not. You have to be aware of this stuff so that you can make the right decisions and not make more of a mess than you're already in. Glucose control is another key point. This was in the clinical journal Neurology, another medical journal, entitled Higher Normal Fasting Plasma Glucose is Associated with Hippocampal Atrophy. This was a separate, independent path study that showed the same exact thing. The role that glucose and glycolylated proteins. You know what glycated proteins are? That's when you have steak and potatoes. That's when you have spaghetti and meatballs. That's when you have carbohydrates and protein together at the same meal. And what happens is it entangles the neurofibrils in your brain. They become encrusted. It's an oxidative process, like a rusting process of the neurons in your brain. So another aspect of that would be the brown things that you see, the brown patches that you see on your skin. The aging spots, okay, that's glycation. And so one of the ways to avoid that is to enjoy your meatballs or enjoy your steak or enjoy your chicken, but just cut out the what? You know, the pasta, the carbs, the potato, the rice, all that stuff. Now, if you want to have that every once in a blue moon, like I was talking to my staff tonight, hey, I'll be the first one on a Friday night to go hog wild on my cheat day. How many of you guys, raise your hand if you like the cheat day? Yeah. And you know what? You enjoy it a lot more than if it's like every other day. You know, you enjoy it a lot more if it's like once a week. If you eat pretty good most of the week and then you have one night where you splurge, you really enjoy that cheat day. But if you're cheating every day, there's no joy in that. It's like you just take it for granted and life is out of control. So you know, I'll have rice and beans, you know, on a Friday night. We'll have the pizza. You know, last weekend we went to Sanibel Island. We went to an Italian restaurant, had some pizza. I had some. My son didn't finish his spaghetti and meatballs, so I did. I don't like good food go to waste, especially on a cheat day. But you know, the point is that you can enjoy food and you can eat the stuff that you like, but you really shouldn't be doing it what? Every day. Yeah, it's showing us that it leads to brain disease, it leads to diabetes, it drives inflammation, it spreads cancer. It's like every degenerative disease that you would ever be medicated for is solved by this one problem: controlling your glucose, controlling your blood sugar. It's a very simple solution, and it impacts every aspect of your health. It's amazing, isn't it? So, Journal of the American Medical Association in 2007, interventional trial in women, study proving fasting and lowered blood sugar benefits on the brain and hippocampal function. New England Journal of Medicine in 2008, they did this Mediterranean diet, weight loss with low carb, high fat. Mediterranean diet showed lower inflammation markers, better brain function, and a lower death rate. And the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease in 2012, also a concurrent Mayo Clinic reported an 89% increase for developing Alzheimer's and dementia when eating a high-carb diet. Now you do that, and you take cholesterol medication, it's pretty much a guarantee for Alzheimer's. And I'm going to explain to you why. And I'm not going to tell you to stop taking your meds, but I will show you what the research shows and let you obviously do the thinking after that. So in a nutshell, elevated insulin destroys what? Brain function. Too much sugar leads to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance leads to what? And diabetes, when you have elevated blood glucose, the medical journals show, leads to cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's. And so that's it. And the reason why is when you have high glucose levels, when you have lots of sugar and your blood sugar goes up, you're driving insulin. You're creating a hormonal change which drives something called cytokines. Everybody say that word. Cytokines. What are cytokines? It's not something from a space age movie from the future. It sounds like it does, but it's you know, if you ever had the flu and you know how like your whole body aches, those are cytokines coming to the rescue to actually heal you through those symptoms. But cytokines are also triggered by certain foods that are inflammatory, namely sugar. So the more sugar and starchy carbohydrates that you have in your diet, the higher your inflammation markers are going to be. And basically, that's why you have brain atrophy and brain damage, because that inflammation is in your brain too. Your brain is on fire. And you gotta find the nutritional and supplemental fire extinguishers, so to speak, to put out the fire. And that's what I'm gonna roll through with you here. One of them is Mariva 500. Highly potent, natural anti-inflammatory. There's more evidence-backed literature with this. I think they have 150 peer-reviewed studies on this. Not just with inflammation, but with cancer prevention. Comes from the Indian spice turmeric, but it's in a special encapsulated form without binders and fillers. So whatever goes in, your body is completely 100% absorbing. I've been using this product myself. I take a couple a day anyway, just as a preventative. But if you are having memory problems, if you know that a lot of this stuff applies to you, if you have joint pains, back pain, hip pain, knee pain, elbow pain, shoulder pain, whatever it is, arthritic pain, very, very powerful. I'll usually advise my patients to take 2 or 3 with each meal, and you will see a clinical result with this. The problem is that when you buy these types of things at, GNC, yeah, and anybody can slap a label on it. When it has the binders and the fillers, your body's not able to absorb it. With the Thorne products in particular, the reason why I use this is because it has the most pure bioavailable form without the binders and the fillers, so everything that you're taking actually gets absorbed and you get the clinical result. Anti-metastatic, modulates cancer genes, inhibits the proliferation of tumor cells, especially brain cells. So that's part of our supplement suite tonight. Mental mineral depletion. So you can have brain disease, neurotransmitter disruption, all by depleted minerals. And what can deplete the minerals? A lot of different things. Highly processed white flour foods like white pasta, white rice, white bread. All that is far removed from its natural form. Excess alcohol, salt, sugar, caffeine. Too much caffeine. Actually, caffeine, like coffee, for example, can be good to help regrow new brain cells, but too much of a good thing is what? Not a good thing, yeah. Sodas, soft drinks, diuretics, antibiotics, all cause mineral deficiency and toxicity. So again, this all affects your brain, the neurotransmitter balance, and throws everything out of whack, causing anxiety, insomnia, ADHD, autism, weight gain, and depression. One of the things that I also put on my food every day is the pink salt, because it's got like 92 different trace minerals. And it's a really good idea to make sure that your minerals stay in balance and it keeps you well hydrated. So if you're not doing that, that's another easy recommendation to make sure that you stay mineral balanced and that you're not mineral depleted. But one of the main effects of a mineral imbalance is depression, and especially with people who are on tons and tons of sugar. The average American consumes, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 or 40 pounds of sugar every single year. And so, you look at the amount of antidepressants that are prescribed, and it's just like, well, hello, that's part of the equation, And so one of the easiest things that you could do to balance your brain is just stop with the sugar. Yeah. So the other thing that causes depression is when you have disruption in your digestive system. A lot of people don't know this. You take antibiotics, or if you have gluten sensitivity, there are a lot of different things that'll disrupt the normal flora in the intestines. Stress, poor nutrition, all these things. Now, what's important about the lining of the intestine? It's got these good bacteria, which not only aids in digestion, but comprises about 80% of your immune system, and about 80 to 90% of the production of serotonin. Did you catch that?
Yes.
Yeah. So while most scientists have previously thought that the serotonin is generated in the brain, what they now know is that most of it is produced actually in the gut. So if you don't have good digestive health, chances are you're an unhappy camper, literally, because you're lacking the serotonin balance. So that comes from a deficiency of essential nutrients like zinc, tryptophan, B vitamins, and that deficiency, because of the disruption in the lining of the gut, disrupts the normal production of serotonin from that aspect. The vast majority of feel-good hormones and chemicals are produced around your intestines, what scientists now call your second brain. Yeah, the nerve cells in your gut are regulating the immune cells and hormones. So if you're going to fight off colds and flu and all that stuff, again, you've got to make sure that you've got a good probiotic that you're taking on a regular basis, so that you're not just, healthy, but you're feeling healthy as well. I take one of these every single day, probiotic. Everybody in the room should be taking at least one of these a day. The studies show a third of the people who have celiac disease also have depression. There's another study from Italy. The researchers found that celiac disease, and again, this is when people have, the disruption to the intestines because of gluten sensitivity, causes attention deficit disorder, causes depression, causes a lot of things. They found that 270% increase in the rate of depression when those people had celiac disease. Or again, gluten sensitivity is a big part of that. So now when you go to the restaurants, you see that, gluten-free, gluten-free, gluten-free. Try to do that whenever you can, but to repair the gut, you have to have a good probiotic. Key for balancing brain function. Hopefully that's not your brain. Sometimes I feel like it's my brain. So there's 3 things. How many things? 3 things. Yeah. Toxins. We got to reduce and eliminate toxins, sugar, and bad fats. They all interfere with neurotransmitter and hormonal communication of the cells. They destroy the brain, and they destroy the surface of the cells, which are permeable to allowing nutrients to come in and toxins to flow out. So let me show you what that looks like. Basically, one of the causative or main causes of, which is very insidious because most of us don't think about it, but many of us in this room do have amalgam fillings, which they make from mercury. We've had flu shots. If you haven't had flu shots lately, you've been vaccinated. We've all been immunized. Some of you are older. Maybe you only got 3 or 4 or 5 when you were a kid. Now, the average child gets around 80. Okay, so all vaccinations have thimerosal. And if the pediatrician or your doctor advises that you get a vaccination, whether it's a flu shot or a child immunization, ask them to see the box to give you evidence and proof that there's no mercury in there. And every time I've ever had a parent or somebody do that, they were shocked to see that even though the doctor told them there was no mercury, the box in fact said there was. Do not ever take somebody's word at face value. They may intend for good, but it could wind up disastrous. And so if you got a mouthful of these things, you can't just go to your dentist and say, please take them out. Because if you rub those or you have hot liquids, mercury vaporizes from them. And they're very, very sensitive. That mercury vapor, that goes into your brain, and you become tired, fatigued, agitated, depressed. It could cause a mess of health problems. I mean a list from A to Z. So I've had a number of patients go over to Dr. Chibanu. He took care of my wife. He's about my age. He's a leader in his profession, and he is a mercury-free dentist. There has to be a very special way to remove this from your mouth. Otherwise, you open up a can full of worms and you feel worse than if you never left it alone. But if you leave this in your mouth, if you leave those there, chances are you have a greater likelihood of being diagnosed with some sort of brain disease, whether it's Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. And there's a clear correlation with this. If you have one of these, you've exceeded the EPA allowable safety amount of mercury. If you have multiple, obviously it should be a concern. So I'd recommend looking into that. Metals from mercury, aluminum vaccines, flu shots, pesticides, herbicides, benzene emissions. When you get in your car, there's benzene, for example, and there's benzene in a lot of things. But if you don't know this, like when you get in your car, when you turn on the engine, you need to roll those windows down. If you're just driving off in the morning and you got the AC blowing on you and you don't have fresh air coming in, you're allowing those toxins to permeate your body and your brain. So these things are really important. And if you're not doing some low level of daily detox on a daily basis, or or a quarter, something on a regular basis, you're really missing the boat with this. You're not hitting it from all angles. So there are things that you can do. This is the easiest, most simple thing because it kills a bunch of birds with one stone. The Metaclear is a shake. It's protein, it's non-allergenic, it's pea and rice protein basically, but it's got no sugar in it. And it's got full multivitamin spectrum, and it's also very, very high in antioxidants. But that's not the only reason why I take it. It's got phase 2 liver detox support, which goes in my body every single day. It boosts the detox organs, the kidneys and the liver. So on a daily basis, I'm getting some low level of detox support to make sure that my body is actively getting this stuff out. And that's what I have peace of mind most with. But at the same time, I have it every day for breakfast. So I don't need to sit there and scramble eggs or make oatmeal or this or that. I'm done working out. I put 2 scoops in a glass, make a smoothie. I'll have some fruit and almond butter. Many of you guys have heard this story already. If you haven't, this is the breakfast of champions, guys. And you don't need to eat like for another 3 or 4 hours after that. You have your almond butter, coconut milk, and I'm telling you, you're missing the boat. Not to mention that you save money. If you think about how much it costs to feed you breakfast for a month relative to how much this costs to keep you going, it's like a no-brainer. And it's clean, you're fueling your body with clean, healthy fuel, and you're supporting your detox organs. And I think it was appropriate to mention this for tonight as far as addressing the toxins. Sugars need to be addressed. Why? It drives inflammation. So when you're looking at these things, we've exhausted pretty much all of the refined carbohydrates. But again, when you open up your pantry, you may not notice, unless you're looking at everything and reading the labels, some of these things like like Nutri-Grain bars, some of these seemingly healthful things like Quaker Oats, they have the brand on it and it looks healthy. We've been brainwashed by some of these brands to think that they're healthy, but yet when you read the nutritional profile on it, there's 80 ingredients in there and 70 of them you cannot pronounce, which means it was made where? In a laboratory, which means it's what? Toxic. Hydrogenated fats, sugars, all different forms of laboratory-created sugars and hydrogenated fats, which are highly inflammatory for your brain and your body. So we've got to take inventory on that. And the other thing that drives inflammation is the bad fats. So if you're not up on the research yet, and I used to see my grandparents in previous generations just loading up on the margarine, and that's just a bad idea. They told us to do that for many, many years to help with your cholesterol, right? And what the studies show now is it actually is responsible for quadrupling the risk of the rate of heart attacks that we have now. So in trying to prevent it, they made it much, much worse because they're trans fats. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. So when it hits the surface of the cells, it creates an inflammatory response. And remember what I said, the surface of the cells, if these are cells in your body, they're permeable. So the nutrients have to come in, the toxins have to go out. And when the surface of the cell becomes inflamed, it destroys the function of that. And you become malnourished. You can't get the vitamins, the minerals in, and you can't function, and the cells lose their normal neurotransmitter and hormonal communication and balance in that process. Very, very simple thing to remedy. But it goes just beyond like this. It's like you go to work and there's donuts and there's muffins and you go to church on Sunday and somebody's bringing Dunkin' Donuts and the coffee just to be a blessing. And it's like it's all around you. It's wherever you go, people don't know. So this is the place in which we live. So you don't want to offend anyone, but you just say no thanks, and bring your own. And just be prepared. You never want to wind up in a situation where you have to subject yourself to this on a regular routine. You want to move as far away from that as you possibly can. Rancid vegetable oils, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, anything that has vegetable oil. Okay? Vegetable oil is partially hydrogenated. Corn oil, canola oil, that's right. Read that again. Canola oil, yeah. Those simply labeled vegetable oil means they are trans fats. And you know what? You go over to Publix, you go over to the Fresh Bakery, you get a freshly baked bread and it's got a label on it. Guess what you're going to see in there? Vegetable oil, yeah. Canola oil. It's in breads, crackers, cookies, boxed foods. Everything that, that you would think would be healthy is not until you read that label and you see otherwise. It's just the way it is right now. So we want to add good fats. We want to have less of the bad stuff and more of the what? More of the good stuff, right? So coconut oil, olive oil. I mean, every day you should have heaping servings of this. You don't have to sit there and measure with a tablespoon. Dump it all over your salad, all over your vegetables. Let it flow. Let your vegetables swim in it. Okay, you can't get fat from these good fats. These good fats help repair and regenerate the cell membranes to get them functioning again, so your biochemistry becomes back in balance. And guess what else? They help you burn fat, by the way. How many of you guys want to burn more fat? Yeah. In order to burn fat, you have to have good fat. So that would come in the form of all of this. The healthy nuts, make sure they're not dry roasted and salted. You're going to get the organic kind, the walnuts, the almonds, macadamia nuts, and God forbid you read the label on that and you see they got 22 grams of fat so you're like, oh my God, I can have one. No, it's okay. Relax. Remember, it's good fat. It's good fat. It'll help your body burn fat. It's okay. Salmon, and look at that, ground beef. Ground beef. Just make sure it says what? Grass-fed. Yeah, you can find it in every grocery store today. It's not very hard to find. Enjoy that stuff. And, you just mix it up. You have your salmon one night, you got your ground beef one night, you got your organic free-range chicken, and shake it up. Enjoy it. And you have lots of vegetables, fruits, nuts, but, pure butter, the Kerrygold, really good stuff. You got your fish oil capsules, almonds. I mean, every single day you'll find this in something that I eat for lunch, for dinner, snacks. I keep a big thing of almonds here. I live by this stuff. And, everything that I read, it's got to go into action. There has to be a plan. So I'm sharing this with you because this is exactly what I do. Your cell membranes are made of fat. Not just the cell membranes, but also your brain. 1/4 of the dry weight of your brain is made up of what? Fat. Yes. Particularly DHA, which is found in the fish oil capsules. The EPA DHA that I recommend that you take, and I take a couple of these every day, it's because you want to make sure that your brain gets the necessary fuel to rebuild itself so that it functions properly. Your brain and every cell in your body is made of cholesterol, phospholipids, and what? Protein. So you've got to have these fats to give the cells the necessary fuel for repair and regeneration. So there was a study done with DHA capsules in particular. They said with healthy people who had memory complaints, they took DHA capsules for 6 months, had almost double the reduction in errors on tests that measure learning and memory performance versus those who took a placebo. Benefits were somewhat equivalent to having learning and memory skills of someone 3 years younger. All right, so these studies clearly have shown for a long time that it helps with brain function, these fish oil capsules. In addition to that, it helps fight depression, stabilizes blood sugar, lowers blood pressure, lowers your triglycerides, prevents cancer, promotes healthy skin, natural anti-inflammatory, pain reliever, helps with PMS and dysmenorrhea. A lot of bang for the buck. All right, so in general, if you want to know what's a pretty good protocol to follow, and again, I'm not an expert at this. I've never authored any books on the paleo diet, but from what I've come to understand, it pretty much fits the bill regarding what we're talking tonight. And so when you look at what's not recommended and what's not on the paleo diet is a lot of dairy. This is high in omega-6. You got your omega-6, 3, 6, and 9. Your diet should be much higher in omega-3 and 9, but omega-6 it typically is higher because of all of the meat that we're eating, which is grain-fed. And dairy's high in it also. So omega-6 drives inflammation. It drives what? Inflammation, which is not what we want relative to what we're talking about tonight. So you want to reduce and eliminate as much of that as possible. If you're worried about getting calcium and strong, healthy bones, that is just a myth. That's a bunk. That is a bunk myth as far as milk and dairy building strong, healthy bones. We consume more milk and dairy in this country than any other country in the world. Guess where we rank in terms of cases of osteoporosis worldwide? Number 1, okay? What this stuff actually does is leach the calcium out of your bones because it's highly acidic. So all the calcium you'll ever need comes from green leafy vegetables. Believe me when I tell you. So we've bought into that myth. You don't need that. Yeah, you go to a party and you got some cheese there and you want to grab a couple of cubes. No one says you can't do that, but you don't need to have that as part of your cornerstone staple in the food pyramid. That's just not correct. You know, beans, grains, all inflammatory, sugars, all your processed foods. Okay, so what is recommended? You know, you got your fish, and you know, be careful with the fish too, because you got your farm raised in there. Everybody knows the farm raised is not good, right?
Yeah.
You know, so you want to make sure it's fresh, it's wild. Fatty fish is good. You know, you want sardines, salmon, you know, small fish. The bigger the fish, the greater the receptacle for what? Mercury. Exactly. You guys, you got it. Okay. And then you got your wild meats, you know, grass-fed, whether it's veal, venison, lamb, grass-fed meats. And then you got your nuts, your eggs. This, by the way, this is nature's perfect food right here. You could live on eggs, guys. You know, low sugar fruits, and you got your vegetables. So that's a pretty good you know, guideline if you wanted to follow that. Go online, get yourself a book, go on Amazon, get a paleo diet for dummies or something like that. No, I'm not calling you dumb. No, just trying to keep you awake. We got another 3 minutes here. Are you still awake?
Yeah.
Turn to your neighbor on the left and punch him in the shoulder and say, "Are you awake?" All right, so here's the good stuff. How many of you guys like coffee? My hands up. I like coffee, I do. And I like the taste of it. It's part of my morning ritual. And it's just one of those things. And I'm glad to find out that science has caught up to support my daily routine. So they've done studies on this and they show the benefit. Now, obviously, if you're abusing that, it's not a good thing. But here's what they found. This was done in 2009, the Karolinska Institute, and it said midlife coffee and tea drinking may protect against late life dementia. The study found that coffee drinkers at midlife had lower risk for dementia and Alzheimer's later in life compared to those drinking no or little coffee. The lowest risk was 65% decreased, was found among the moderate coffee drinkers. In other words, between 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day. I'm just wondering, is it a big cup or a little cup? That I don't know.
Regular coffee cup?
Yeah, what's that?
Probably a regular.
Probably a regular coffee cup. You know, I've seen some pretty big mugs though. That doesn't count as 1 cup. But here's the thing, guys. You know, if you're getting just run-of-the-mill coffee, you know, through one of your favorite franchises, without naming names, chances are it's loaded with herbicides and pesticides. Coffee is the most heavily sprayed crop for herbicides and pesticides. So you're allowing those toxins to come in, which defeats the purpose of what we're talking about tonight. So what's the best coffee to drink if you want to derive the benefits of brain boosting and brain building characteristics? Organic, yeah, mountain grown organic. So if you do that, you'll get the benefits of actually being able to build new brain cells from that. Now, if you want to supercharge that, you add one of these to that process. So, for example, after I had lunch today, I made my coffee, put it in the blender, and then I hacked off a nice sized chunk, and I whipped it up, and it comes out like a cappuccino. So what happens with butter is this. If you don't know this, not only is it a good fat to burn fat, but it's got arachidonic acid in there, which is another way of saying, you know, picturing your brain like an engine firing on all cylinders. You know, having the pistons pop, it really supercharges the neurons. So, you know, that's typically, you know, what you'll find when you have a cup of coffee with butter in it, and you whipped up like that. Not only do you wake up, but your brain stays awake for many, many more hours, and you don't get the crash and the dip after, like you usually, a lot of people find when they drink coffee. Another thing you could do, same thing, is put the coconut oil in there, and you just mix it up. And these are good, healthy fats for your brain, and they're fat burning. And remember, they got fat in them. So it's one thing when you drink coffee, it stops you from getting hungry, right? But when you have all those good fats on it, on top of it, again, you're not just curbing your hunger, you know, artificially. You're actually saturating your fat with some level of satiety value from a good, healthy fat, which serves a good purpose, not just for your body, but for your brain as well. So these are things that you could try. Just for your knowledge also, this is kind of going to lead into our workshop coming up next month with the heart health, Heart Smart Nutrition, the relationship between cholesterol and cognitive performance. And this becomes a big concern if you're bringing your cholesterol into levels that are recommended by doctors, conventional medical doctors, and drug companies. I'm going to share with you why. It comes from Boston University, 2005. They did a study at 789 men and 1,100 women who were part of the original Framingham group. They were all free of dementia and stroke at the beginning of the study and were followed for 16 to 18 years. The cognitive tests that were performed every 4 to 6 years evaluated their memory, learning, concept formation, concentration, attention, abstract reasoning and organizational abilities. These are all the things they test people for Alzheimer's with. So the participants they found with the total cholesterol less than 200 performed less well than participants with borderline high total cholesterol, somewhere between 200 and 239. Participants with the highest cholesterol, greater than 2 level, had the best outcome on those tests. In other words, the higher the person's cholesterol, the better their brain worked. Did you get that? Yeah. Okay. So the people who had the highest cholesterol scores scored the highest on the cognitive tests. And another cholesterol expert and authority on these studies, he found that if you deprive cholesterol from the brain, which is what you're doing when you're taking statin medications, because your brain is actually made of cholesterol. So when you bring cholesterol levels down in your body, you are directly affecting the cholesterol levels in your brain, which is why it quadruples your risk of Alzheimer's disease. He said that you affect the machinery that triggers the release of what? Neurotransmitters. The study shows that there's a direct link between cholesterol and the neurotransmitter release. Cholesterol is a life-giving neuron. I mean, basically, it shuttles. It's the LDL. You know, you have your LDL and your HDL. The HDL is the good cholesterol. The LDL is the what? The bad cholesterol. But what they found is that LDL it's not actually cholesterol. It's a molecule that shuttles cholesterol to your brain where it's needed. And so it's not bad at all. And what we're doing is we're trying to wipe that out, and at the same time we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And we're causing a lot of problems here with all these different medications, Lipitor, Crestor, Mevacor. All of these cholesterol medications are bringing the cholesterol levels down artificially. And what you do is you cause brain disease when you do that, and you're increasing your risk of cancer. So that's what it shows. 2008, published in the Journal of Movement Disorders, showed that people with the lowest LDL cholesterol were at increased risk for Parkinson's disease by what? 350%. That's no joke, guys. Now, you need to mill over this. Some of you guys are still taking cholesterol meds. It's fine. You know, if you want more answers, let me know. I can tell you the workshop that we're going to have next month. We really, you know, we peel back a lot more layers on this. You know, I don't generally tell people to stop taking their medication. I just don't. I'm not supposed to do that. That's not what I'm licensed to do. I don't put you on meds. I don't take you off. But I can tell you what I would do, and I will unashamedly tell you this, that if I was taking cholesterol medication and I knew that the research shows that there is zero risk of you having a heart attack with high level of cholesterol. In fact, there is no more risk with you having a higher level cholesterol as there is with a lower level cholesterol. I would be off that so fast, you know, it would make your head spin. There is no research to support the fact that people with high cholesterol are in imminent danger of a heart attack. It's not cholesterol that causes heart attack. It's what? Inflammation. Yeah. So if you're eating an anti-inflammatory diet, if you've got your stress under control, if you're getting adjusted, if you've got all these healthy fats, if you're moderating inflammation, and you go to the doctor and they do a blood test and you've got a cholesterol level that comes in at 280, they could scream bloody murder all they want. The reality is that the research shows there's no risk for a heart attack. Now, if your HSCRP, your inflammation markers are through the roof, yeah. And if your cholesterol levels are in what they consider normal range, and they've got that under control, but nothing's been done to address the cause of an imminent heart attack, it doesn't matter how many medications that you're on. You're the first one that's going to be sitting in the ICU with your chest cracked open. So that's, anybody who works in a hospital will tell you that the people in the ICUs with the heart attacks, they're all on cholesterol meds, they're all on blood pressure meds. Doesn't prevent heart attacks. So the key to correcting all that and giving you peace of mind for whatever decision you make regarding your health and your medications, whether you follow your recommendations or don't, is based on the research that's found in their medical journals. And you have every right to ask them what they think about that and why they make decisions contrary to what's published in their medical journals. Right or right? That's the reason why we do these workshops. I don't want you to live in fear. Do you like to live in fear? No. That's why we do these workshops. You know, so that's what it comes down to. You make your own decisions, but don't make them out of fear. And don't make them because your doctor told you to do it. Make it out of intelligence and what the research shows. We'll go over more of that next month. So making application on what we talked about, this is our supplement suite. As you guys know, if you've been to a workshop before, this is the only time supplements are discounted. We have a limited quantity in stock tonight. So for those of you guys who want to take advantage of this, when you buy all 3 of these together, you get 20% off. It's like getting one free, basically. The Mediclear also, Deborah, I didn't mention this earlier. Deborah, hey, oh, Deborah. Okay, the Mediclear is 20% off also. I didn't cover that at the meeting today, so this way you guys got that. So if you guys want the Mediclear or any of this, it's 20% off. But that's it. The discounts are only at the workshop because we want to encourage you to make application with what we're talking about. Last but not least, continue learning and growing. Not a whole lot to talk about with this, right? When you stop learning, you stop growing, and when you stop growing, you start what? Dying. Yeah. Keep coming back to the workshops. Remember in the beginning when I had you raise your hand? So if tonight's your first one, just make sure it's not your last. Yeah. And and also make sure that you're getting our emails, because when you do get the emails, you will get the link to the workshop that you sat through, and you can watch it and share it with friends and family members. Did you know that? That's good to know. So if you're not getting our emails, please make sure that you're getting our emails. And also in your handouts, we're having a contest. If you take time to read that, basically, if you write us a 5-star review on Google, and it should be. Is it in their handout?
No, it's on the front desk.
Okay, if you can pick it up on the way out. We're doing a $50 Visa card gift certificate. It's going to be raffled off. It's what?
2 chances.
You got 2 chances. Yeah, so you can enter once posting the 5-star review on Facebook, and then the other one on Google. And you'd be surprised. I mean, you think that you wouldn't win. You don't know who's going to do it and who's not. We could have 3 people do it. You got a pretty good chance of winning, you know? But hopefully everybody will do it because everybody reads reviews. And if you post your review, even if you don't win, somebody's going to read that and they're going to make a decision to come in here. And if they have their life changed, you could be part of that blessing. So I encourage you to do that. Please grab one on the way out. Before October 15th, we're going to do that raffle. And that's it. So make sure you get credit for tonight's workshop. If you're a guest and you would like us to evaluate your nerve system, see Dr. Maurice over there. Maurice, can you raise your hand? See Dr. Maurice. He's going to make your appointment and get on the core broken brain supplements and make sure we get you registered for next month, Heart Smart Nutrition. That's it. Thank you for being here, guys. Love and appreciate you. God bless.